So I am recording this, and I will push this out later on for some of the folks who are not able to join us. So good morning to you all. I am so glad to see you all. I'm so glad to see everyone here. I'm glad to chat with everyone here. And I'm mostly glad to bring us all together so that we can talk about everything that's happening. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kim. Go ahead.
So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see you guys, especially given all the craziness that's going on in the world right now. That, you know, part of this I'm going to tell you is selfish on our part. I think we just felt we wanted to touch base with everybody, given the situation. So that's the selfish part. And I'm so glad to see all of you. And we'll have time to share stories and what's going on. Probably the first thing, hopefully you guys have all seen the way LCFA and our sister.orgs have come together, and every Monday we're producing an update report on the COVID-19 and its impact on lung cancer patients. Upal from Longevity, who I think you all know, and who is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, I think is kind of leading that. I know he's getting help from others. But if you look, I think feedback. Okay, I think it's on all of our websites. We're pushing it through social media. So if you haven't seen those updates, I think they're really well done. And another new one will come out this coming Monday, because obviously things are changing so rapidly. And everything is, knowing Upal, as I'm sure most of you do, it all comes from the CDC, and it's all footnoted, and it's all good, really good information. So hopefully that's helpful. We also thought that we'd tap into Michael Weitz, who's a member of our Speakers Bureau, also, what, Michael, a 14-year survivor? Yeah, 14. But Michael also has an interesting perspective of everything in that he's an ER doctor. So we thought we'd tap into Michael and get his perspective on what's going on from being an ER doctor perspective. Morning, Michael.
Good morning. You want me to take it away?
Take it.
Okay, so COVID-19 is a novel virus. What that means is that it's new to the world and it's unique, and no one really knows what's going to happen with it. And so, but I want to bring hope, just like, and dissipate fear, just like we do in lung cancer advocacy. Good morning, everyone, by the way. So the fear is, I think, is not a good strategy. Fear is never a good strategy. We need to be able to understand some of the dynamics of this novel virus. So the way this has all happened is in China, probably from bats, whereas it basically skipped the animal and came into the humans. And the Chinese was there first, and they were very good because of their draconian type society of isolating people and minimizing the effect, even though they still were greatly affected because of the billion people that they have. And then it then spread all over the world. And the way it happens, this is a respiratory illness. And what happens is that the respiratory illness is from respiratory droplets, is the way um, the way that it's contagious. And so if you're 6 feet away, you would be is a safe distance. But if you're closer than 6 feet, then you have a potential of catching it. And the problem is that the respiratory virus, after a cough or a sneeze, can linger in the immediate vicinity for up to 2 to 3 hours, which is kind of staggering. Now, the good news is that the the virus is much less um, devastating than influenza. Um, if you were to look at influenza versus COVID-19, it would be just a pimple in comparison to the flu, influenza A and B. Influenza A and B affect 1 billion people, where COVID is at this point 250,000. Um, the um, it's so important to know that, because there's a lot of hype right now, and I think it may be the dawn before the storm. But in LA County, as of yesterday, there's only been 2 deaths and like 11,000 cases. So I don't think panicking is appropriate at this point. And that the reason the flu uh, we should be more afraid of the flu than we are of COVID. And um, because the influenza at least has a vaccine. Now, we don't have a vaccine yet. The problem with COVID also, from a lung cancer perspective, is that it has an affinity for for the lungs. And the way the viruses work is it invades into the cells, and then the cells replicate. Now, COVID-19 has a predilection for lung cells, which makes it more dangerous for us. And because once it gets into the lower respiratory tract, it causes a it causes viral replication into the cell, and the cells then can damage the alveoli to the lungs, and the body creates an inflammatory response, and then at that point you develop pneumonia, and pneumonia is really the cause of death when COVID does happen, but it happens rarely. The other good news is that for the most part, the deaths that are occurring in Italy and China and here are mainly in older populations, like 85 and older. Yes, there are, cases that are younger people. And yesterday it came out that, 20 to 50-year-olds, that 38% have hospitalizations, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily dying. And in all of LA County, like I said, there's only 2 cases compared to how many people do we have in Los Angeles? We've got, what, 12 million? So um, I think that from a ER perspective, um, we are not seeing, it may be the dawn before the storm, we are not seeing a lot of cases right now, despite all the media. You have to remember that media has a lot of sensational things, and where I get my source, my major source is Anthony Fauci, who is an infectious disease expert for 40 some odd years, who's helped many of these disasters, such as SARS and Ebola, and he was very pivotal in HIV as well. He is the expert, and out of everyone else is postulating. And he's postulating as well because it's a novel virus. We don't know everything there is, and we're learning every single day. From an emergency department standpoint, we are critically short of protective gear. Our our mask supply, in what's called N95, is the preferred mask. Is there's a 10-day supply in the hospital, and they're rationing these masks, and so we're not adequately protected. Um, we can use face shields as a compromise, but that is the critical shortage. Testing now, you can pretty well get everywhere. A lot of testing now can take the anxiety out of that. Uh, but typically, when you come to the emergency department, you'll go to an outside tent, and they will screen you for the major symptoms, which is fever, aches, myalgias, sore throat, not sore throat, shortness of breath, and cough. So if you have those things, for the most part, we tell you to go home, and we don't even, test you unless you're short of breath. And with shortness of breath, if your oxygen saturations in the body are low, then you definitely need to be hospitalized, and um, and with a very low threshold to bringing you to the ICU, and where there's potential for putting you on a ventilator if there's significant respiratory distress. So right now, we're not seeing a lot of activity. So I think that there's a lot of stress, and it may come, but no one really knows. So our strategy is really to flatten the curve. So if you are isolating yourself and staying safe at home, then there can really be no transmission. And without any transmission, you will flatten the curve and not overwhelm the healthcare system. And that's the most important thing we can do, because there is a shortage of ICU beds, and there is a shortage of potentially ventilators, and there certainly is a shortage of protective equipment. I am so proud to be an emergency physician and to have all of the colleagues be brave, and we have PAs, we have secretaries, we have registration people, we have housekeeping, and these are all brave first responders, and they deserve our respect, and because they're coming to work every single day, and they're not backing down, and there's no absenteeism, and so there's no fear. So I want to alleviate a lot of fear. And if you isolate yourself, you're not going to get it. And if you do get it, the chances are it's going to be a very mild disease, or it will be subclinical where you have no symptoms whatsoever. It's a very small minority that gets severely affected.
Well, Michael, I have a question. It's my understanding that lung cancer patients, or cancer patients in general, but let's talk about lung cancer patients, they really aren't at any greater risk of getting the virus as anybody else is. But
Right.
are they at greater risk if they do get it? And is there anything they should be doing differently?
Well, I think if they are immunosuppressed in any way, for example, with standard chemotherapy, um, the or pre-existing diseases such as diabetes, or if they're smoking or vaping, I think that that does increase the risk. However, if with targeted therapies doesn't really suppress your immune system. So I think that the ability to fight off infection is greater and should be pretty well as everyone else is.
Great. Thank you, Michael. That was helpful. Anybody have any questions for Michael?
I do. Hi.
Hi.
I don't think, Michael, we haven't officially met. I'm Ivy. So one
Hi.
of the things, hi, one of the questions I have that I read on one of the Q&As that was out there mentioned surgery or relatively recent surgery as being an increased risk for COVID-19. What do you have anything you could say to expand on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I don't, unless you have diabetes or some underlying morbidity, or you're on immunosuppressants for like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, or a kidney transplant, liver transplant, heart transplant. I don't think surgery confers extra risk. I think right now, what we're trying to do as much as possible is eliminate elective surgeries. Uh, and so most hospitals now have stopped elective surgeries. So it's only in an emergency that we would operate. And at that point, you have to operate and take that risk. But the great news is that your immune system is good. And the reason why older people get this disease in a horrific fashion is because as you get older, your immune system gets suppressed. And that's why young people and kids rarely get it, and old people frequently get it, because your immune system is not the same as it used to be.
So
That answer your question?
she's nodding.
Sorry,
Janet,
I
you had
muted
a
myself.
question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So I have a question. This is Janet. Those of us who've had radiation to our lungs have scarring. And I've already had pneumonia a few times because I have difficulty clearing things out of my lungs. And my understanding from what I've seen and heard from some of the doctors is those of us who've had radiation to our lungs, or possibly surgery that might have caused scarring, might have more difficulty with clearing this virus out of our lungs, and therefore might be more susceptible to getting a severe case. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that whenever there's scarring or damage, or I have one lung, for example, I have one lung. I can't afford to get this virus because, uh, I would die immediately if I had pneumonia. I think scarring does make it more difficult because, as I stated before, this virus is has an affinity for lung cells and alveoli, and then the alveoli get inflamed, and then which causes blockage and then pneumonia. So any compromise, I think, puts you at higher risk. So more important to isolate yourself and not get it.
Great. Michael, thank you so much. That was
Okay.
that was very helpful. Here at LCFA, we're trying to keep on top of all of this for you. Having this call is one thing. You also know we're doing our podcasts. We actually later today are going to drop a podcast specifically on COVID-19. We interviewed Karen Raycamp at Cedars-Sinai, and then we interviewed Lisa and Janet. So I think Sarah, we're dropping that this afternoon.
That is my hope. It is in editing right now, literally right now. I've been texting back and forth with the editor. So that interview, that podcast will go out later, although I did send the interview with Dr. Raycamp around yesterday. So you guys have in the file that I sent yesterday, the entire interview with Dr. Raycamp that will appear in the podcast, because I wanted to get that out to all of the members of the Speakers Bureau, because so many of you sent in really great questions. So you have Dr. Raycamp's interview now. The podcast will drop this afternoon. So Lisa Goldman, you've got your hand up. Did you mean to?
Yeah. No, I did. Does anybody have an answer to? So I've been isolating for a week now, but we get mail or deliveries, or my husband brought home some groceries, and my mom said, "Well, did you wipe down everything?" And I thought, no, I didn't. Like, how neurotic do I have to be even when I'm in isolation?
So this is Janet. We had a broadcast from epidemiologists locally in Seattle yesterday talking about this. There was a paper just published yesterday that listed how long this particular virus was able to survive on surfaces. Previous articles had been based on coronaviruses in general. This one is specific to this virus, and it says that it can live on plastics and metal for up to 3 days and on cardboard for up to 24 hours. They suggest using rubber gloves when you bring packages in from outside and wiping them down, or just leaving them sit on the porch or in the garage for 24 hours until the virus dies off. If you do it in less than that period of time, use gloves when you open the package and throw the package away immediately before you take the gloves off.
Elizabeth, did you have a question? You're on mute.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. We also are going, because things are changing so rapidly, we're going to try to drop another podcast about this middle of next week, if not sooner. And there we have an interview with Ross Camage. Who else do we have on that one, Sarah? Do you know?
Yeah, so that one is Ross Camage, and actually, guys, later in just another second, I'm going to record or use some of this recorded podcast, because what came up yesterday in my conversation with Janet and Lisa was some strategies that you guys are using to work on being at home and making sure there's groceries in the house and coexisting in tight quarters. And so I'd love to hear what you all are doing to stay positive, to cope with what everyone else is coping with, on top of your very real and legitimate concerns about living with lung cancer. So that part of this discussion will be included in the podcast that'll drop next week with Dr. Ross Camage's really wonderful advice that I got from him late yesterday afternoon. So does anyone want to jump in? Maybe Lisa, you could start, because what struck me so much is that you've got darling yet snarly teenagers in the house.
So you're asking things I'm doing to stay sane. So we go for walks, we have game night, we have movie night. The kids have done some Zoom calls with their friends.
And we haven't super saint. Like I've allowed, my daughter started crying because she realized she might not get her middle school graduation. And so have to allow for some space for that too. But yeah, and exercise, got to get the exercise in, whether it's an outdoor walk or some streamed class that you get from, online somewhere, whatever it is. Physical activity really helps chill out the mind as well.
How is everybody getting exercise? I'd love to hear from different people. I mean, are you guys able to do that, or what are some of the best ways that you've found to still get your exercise in? Terry, unmute. I unmuted you. Go for it, Terry.
Hey, actually, they closed down my Y, and so they sent us a whole bunch of videos. And I have not been really great about doing all of them, but just merely by having them, it's really given me a lot more sense of I've got control. And fortunately, where I am, the weather is just it's 80 degrees and gorgeous out today. So I've been able to kind of go outside and play in the yard. But I've started doing a little bit of Tai Chi on my own, and I don't even have to worry about being embarrassed around other people because it's just me and the video.
I've done Tai Chi with the white crane cooling its wings. And yeah. That's a good one. Elizabeth, you are a college athlete. Are you getting some exercise? Because not only are you locked up and cooped up, but you got 2 little bitty kids.
So it's been super rainy here. Today's actually the first day that it's been decent. It's 73 right now and sunny. So we went for a walk today, but I had just started getting into fitness classes at a local studio, and I had to stop that last week when my oncologist said, no, you can't go in public. But they actually are posting videos online. So I'm doing the same thing. I did that yesterday. I can barely walk today. And also I have a Peloton, and I've had a Peloton for a while, but they are offering 90 days for free right now. And you can do it on your TV or your phone or iPad or what have you. And they've got walking workouts if it's nice outside and you can listen to music, or they've got meditation, yoga, they've got it all. So it is a nice resource.
That's great. Thank you. Dr. Weitz, I see the blue hand up on your screen. Was that you or Janice?
Janice.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that myyogaworks.com is giving 2 weeks free classes, and they have like 1,200 classes. So I haven't started it yet, but my girlfriend did, and she said it's wonderful. So that might be something you want to try for 2 weeks for free. And if you like it, I think it's $15 a month. And they have Pilates, they have yoga. It's called myyogaworks.com.
myyogaworks.com. That's cool. Thank you. Janet, I see your hand up.
Hi. So some people in neighborhoods where it's not really crowded are able to go out and go for a walk and maintain distance. But I have a question for the group. Some people on social media are reporting that other people they encounter during their walks are making a point of coming up to them, and they're trying to find convenient ways to keep their distance. Any suggestions?
Ooh, I love that question. Anybody got
This is Kim. I know when I go on my walk, I purposely, if someone's coming toward me, I even go walk out on the street. I mean, I walk all the way around them and just create that space. Because if you stay on the sidewalk and you're passing each other, there's not much you can do. And then if you're passing someone, I was walking with a neighbor, and my neighbor and I were keeping our space. We walked by someone and the guy coughed right on my neighbor. I mean, that was so uncool.
Yeah. It's sort of amazing. It's taking a while for the social distancing to really cement in people's brains, I think.
But it also made me realize there are a lot of different places I can walk. I just have to avoid the crowded places and go take the side streets that aren't as crowded.
Take the side streets and be really obvious about moving away. and
Yeah,
keeping your
I don't make
distance.
any bones about it.
Yeah. Nobody would think that you'd make bones about it, Kim. Ivy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I've had a treadmill in my basement for years and have only used it sporadically. But what we did right now, since the weather is really crappy in Chicago right now, and I have 3 men home, so we moved it upstairs and set it up so that it faces a window, and that's really, I mean, just doing that has changed things for me, and I'm using it every day and looking at the outside, and I don't know, for some reason that makes me feel better. So just that's a very small adjustment that made a difference for me.
I agree with you because I'll tell you what, I'm actually sitting right next to my treadmill and I put it in the window because I can't do it if I'm facing a blank wall in the basement. At least if I have a window, I feel like I can, do a half an hour and feel pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
Lisa, you've got your hand up.
Hi. Yeah, I think the window thing is great because we rained a lot last night. We've had great weather, but it rained a lot last night, so it was kind of dark and cloudy. So even just it made me feel better just instantly opening my windows, the blinds, to get light in. But I'm lucky I have pretty good weather here, so I'm able to go outside. And my dog's really excited because now we walk twice a day instead of once a day, which is nice. I have a great park by my house, and it's got a lot of big soccer fields, so it's kind of nice. I kind of stay in that grassy area because I can see for big distances. So if there's anyone nearby or whatever, it's easy to avoid if they start coming my direction. But I wanted to say there's a lot of great free I do yoga videos on YouTube. There's a lot of great free ones. Yoga with Adrienne is one of my favorites. You can do something very simple and basic where she even walks you through everything if you've never done it before. So there's a lot of good free stuff online too where you could do mini workouts at home. And I have some of those bands, the elastic loop bands. So I've been trying to work out at home a little bit more. And it's hard because you get distracted easier. Like when you're at the gym, at least I'm like, okay, I'm committed. But then when you're at home, it's kind of hard for me to be like, after 15 minutes, I'm like, oh, I should be doing this or taking care of that instead. So it's harder. I guess I just have to do it in smaller time frames to keep my attention or to stay focused on it. But
I have a question for everybody, and maybe it's just a challenge here in Los Angeles, but how are you managing the grocery shopping? I had a neighbor call me this morning. He went to the grocery store. He had to wait 45 minutes just to get in.
Oh, golly. Laura, you were waving your hand. I'm going to.
Yeah. So I'm in New York, which kind of has blown up on the COVID area. So we, in fact, today, everything just keeps getting worse every single day. So what we've done, I have 2 challenges, just the not getting sick and like everybody else. And I also had surgery a week ago. So I really don't want to get sick of any type because I don't want to be infected and end up in a hospital right now. Obviously, it's the last place anyone wants to be. So we have had delivery services, and my brother mentioned that, you have to sort of have the delivery set up almost a week in advance, if not more. So on Tuesday, we signed up for that, and we're picking up the groceries on Sunday. And that is a better way to avoid going in grocery stores. Unfortunately, here, there are quite a few people that are still acting as business as usual, even though we have about 21 cases in a very small county, and it's clear it's in the community and the county has informed us as such. But so you kind of have to idiot proof, I guess, I would say, and just think about, is it really necessary, and limit the number of times that you go.
That's good advice. I know, Janet, I'll get to you in just a second. Ivy had her hand up, but I know that Janet's got a story about ordering as well, but I'm going to go to Ivy really quick here.
Okay, so I was also just going to add, we looked at that in our community yesterday for delivery, and everything was, it seemed like it was more than a week out for delivery timing. But then we found that a lot of the local grocery stores also have a pickup service, which, you know, basically you tell them it's like delivery, but all you have to do is drive over there. You call them when you get there, and they come and put it in your car. So, I mean, that also minimizes a lot of, you know, the exposure. And that was just 2 days as opposed to several weeks. So I just wanted to mention that that might be an option for people also who don't want to get out and go to the grocery store.
That's a great idea. Elizabeth, I see your hand up. I'm going to go to Janet first, and then I'll come to you. Janet?
Hi, I shared this with Lisa and Diane and Sarah yesterday. So in Washington State, when things started to get concerning, my husband and I, who are both in high-risk groups, he's over 80, decided we were going to try grocery pickup. Our local Kroger store allows you to send in your shopping list, and they collect it for you, and then you pick it up curbside. But we decided to do it on a day that our governor happened to be announcing the first of the school shutdowns, which we didn't know at the time. So my husband said, well, I was going to do the order today, this morning, but maybe I'll put it off to this afternoon. And we said, well, the government's going to talk at 10:15. The governor's going to talk at 10:15. Do it now. He got online in the morning. By the time he finished his order, and it took a little while to learn to navigate it, the first available pickup time was 4:30 in the afternoon. They called us an hour later and said, make it 6:30. He got there at 6:30, waiting curbside, and finally went home without his groceries at 8 o'clock because of the onslaught of orders that they had. And then when they finally delivered our order at 9:30 that night to the house, and several items were missing because by the time we'd placed our order and the time they filled it, they'd run out. So be thinking about the items that you really need, and maybe think about ordering them ahead and make sure you have time. Our son, who actually works in the grocery store, was able to pick up some of those items for us, and we did a grocery exchange. He left it by his front door, and we ran and got them and brought them back to the house. But you know, they're going to run out of some things, or run out of them really early in the day. Here in Seattle, they are now setting aside hours where people who are of compromised health can go into the store and be able to have more distance. They still have lines getting in, as other people have talked about, but then they get first crack at the restocked shelves, which is handy.
That's great advice too. Elizabeth, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate that our grocery stores, there's a couple local stores that have opened the first 3 hours of every day are for only high-risk patients, which is really nice. The local Krogers are now the first hour before opening. Anyone who's 60 or older, which obviously I do not fit that category, so that's kind of upsetting, but that's okay.
I wonder if you could talk to him and just say, hey, look, here's my situation.
I have not left my house since last Wednesday, so I am not planning on going anywhere, but otherwise I am able to, like, a friend's husband was going to the grocery, to Costco actually, and she sent me a text and said, hey, what do you need from Costco? Brian's going. And then he just left it on my front porch. And to the earlier question, my husband, Michael, wipes everything down, throws everything away, you know, we're very cautious about that when someone does leave food for us on the front porch.
What a blessing to have somebody helpful like that.
It is very nice.
Yeah. I'm going to go to AJ. You've patiently had your hand up for quite some time.
No, thanks. I was just going to say that strategically, what we did is um, when when all the hype got crazy and the grocery shelves were completely empty, we just decided to get sacks of rice and beans and lentils that are not in tins, but just bags of them. And it seems a little harsh, but it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's rice and beans. It's creative with stock cubes of, you know, vegetable stock cubes and making the rice with that, throwing in whatever we can. I mean, we can put garlic powder, onion powder, and this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And because I am concerned that if someone steps out and brings it home, I could be in trouble. And so we just decided to hunker down and do this, and then just try to you know, get some fresh air by going out at times when we think people are not out. But so many people are at home now that we see a lot of people outside. So you definitely have to cross the street or walk on the road if somebody's coming at you, because you don't want to have that conversation or interaction. And that's how we're trying to keep sense of this, keep our minds active, you know, play games. I continue to work full time, fortunately able to work from home, so that keeps me busy. But these are really unprecedented times, and it calls for, you know, drastic action, which is, you know, just eating the same food day in, day out. It can get mundane, but we're trying to be creative, and those are the in those ways we can stretch our supplies. They don't go bad very quickly. I mean, rice can sit around, and beans, unless you cook them, they don't go rancid or anything. So those are my advices, that for people in our condition, we need to limit not only ourselves but all the members of our household. I got all my college kids, everyone's at home, and it's a big household just sitting around every day doing nothing. And so we're trying to get creative and do things, and maybe side projects are being worked on.
That's great. Could anybody else listen to AJ read their grocery list? Would that be okay?
All I know is I have an idea that I'm hanging on to for today. Whether or not I do it this evening, I may or may not, but I'm so sick of the food that I fix, and those that know me know I don't cook, and I'm getting really tired of it. So I just have In-N-Out, and In-N-Out is open, and you just do the drive-through. So that limits it.
Between
Now,
drive-throughs
how
and
long
delivery
that line
groceries.
is gonna be, I have no idea. But I have this image of going to In-N-Out tonight.
Now we're all craving In-N-Out. I'm
I
gonna
would
go
like
to.
to cook for you, Kim.
It may just be a dream, but I'm thinking about it.
We're dreaming. We're dreaming. We're having In-N-Out dreams. Juanita, I'm gonna go to you.
One word, DoorDash.
DoorDash. There we go. I am trying to unmute you, Juanita.
I got it.
There you go.
So what I wanted to share was the grocery stores by us, the big ones. So we have one called Food for Less. Oh God, we have quite a bit. Jewels, all that stuff. And they've been so crazy, especially the ones closer to me, where there's actually police officers out there controlling the line. That's how bad it is.
Good heavens.
Now the mom and pop store in my community, which are Mexican-owned little stores, and they have all the meats. So Steve and I, we hit those places and we stocked up on chicken, beef, pork chops, all that stuff. And then, you know, I've been helping my son and daughter-in-law with the baby. She's been sick, and I had to take her to the doctor. So I've already been around people that have been sick, but thank God I'm okay. I've been coughing, but I'm okay. And so because we help them with the baby, and my son, he's a fireman. Not only that, he's also ex-military. So he's done, but he's on call for National Guards, because supposedly they're going to be calling the guards in the state of Indiana to help assist. So he's going to probably get ready to be called, even though he's not active, but they need him. So I've been helping. So we stocked up, you know, she's drinking milk. I heard that you could freeze your gallon of milk and it could stay frozen in your freezer for up to 3 months. So Steve and I, our freezer, we have one of those huge freezers in our garage. I literally been going to Walgreens and paying quite a bit, but just buying milk little by little. So I have a bunch of frozen milk in my freezer for Leanna.
That's a great idea. You know what? It's the state universities all have an extension office. I know Colorado State University has a food safety download sheet, so you can jump on and figure out. They will tell you how to freeze food, what can be frozen, how to freeze it, how to
Sorry about
defrost
that.
it. So I think that's another great resource. Dr. Weitz, I see your hand up. I'm trying to unmute you, but I know you guys have had your hand up for a little while.
Yeah, just I wanted to tell you what I've been doing for groceries because it's been pretty successful. It's a website called SHIPT, shipped.com. And the thing that's kind of unique about them is that you can order from Office Depot and Office Max, for example, if you're working at home and you need those kind of products. You can order from Petco, so if you have animals, you can order pet food. You can order from Target, which has everything. You choose what store. I paid $14 for 1 month of unlimited delivery. When the shopper went for my food shopping, she texted me the entire time because things were out and she made substitutions. For example, they didn't have potatoes. So she said, but I see 3 really nice sweet potatoes here. Would you like those? I said, sure, grab them. So there was constant communication. And even though a lot of things are out, she was able to make substitutions for me. So I had a really good experience with that. It's shipped, SHIPT.com, and I believe they're national. So for those of you that aren't in California, so I just wanted to share that.
What I love about this, thank you so much. What I love about this conversation is everybody sort of sharing these ideas and neighbors looking out for neighbors and friends looking out for friends. I'm going to do one more question from Janet, and then I like I say, I know a lot of us are still working. I know Montessa, you're still working. Matt, you're still working. So I want to keep us on time here to honor everyone's schedule. But Janet, what would you like to say?
Just a quick thing to add, at least in Washington State, our local restaurants are still open for delivery and takeout. So yesterday we decided to contact one of the restaurants where we normally get delivery in order to keep giving them business because we'd like them to stay around. And they had already closed.
Oh.
So if there are places that you like to go for food, you might think about ordering from them just to help them stay alive.
That's a great point. That's a great point because we're all going to need these places when the doors are open again. Well, Montessa, you're waving at me.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Oh, sorry, you all. So if anybody has school children, of course, there's if your school didn't give you digital sites, Scholastic has things free. Khan Academy is doing things for free. Ed Momentum, the Smithsonian. So if you want to do a virtual field trip or find things from Smithsonian, you could explore all those sites as well for your kids.
That's great information. And for all of you who don't know Montessa, most of you I'm sure do, but you're a special education, you're a teacher who teaches teachers, right?
Yes, I'm a mentor teacher for teachers.
Yeah.
Specifically for special education.
Super. Because a bunch of us have little monsters running around the house. Currently, I have 2. Well, thank you so much for that great advice. I really want to thank you guys for this conversation. It's not our last. And I am grateful that the signal held up. Everybody's Wi-Fi seems to be doing okay. This seemed like a great way to touch base, and I really appreciate all of your time this morning. I know a lot of us are running around keeping busy, and so this is a great way to keep in touch.
I have a question for everybody. And it's just LCFAs are always thinking, what more can we do? What more can we do to support you? And we're going to be getting these podcasts out. We're going to keep doing the COVID Monday updates. Is this helpful? Would you, at least during this time period, would you like to do this again, like next week, next Friday?
I'm seeing a lot of nodding.
I am too. I just think it's nice to touch base, and it's another way to stay connected, which reminds me, something I'm doing at 4:00 this afternoon. My 3 closest friends who we've known each other for a million years, we're going to do this exact same thing, only the 4 of us, and we're going to all have a glass of wine and hang out with each other via this. So
I think virtual cocktail hour is brilliant, and I am a big proponent.
yeah.
There's also
Go ahead, Jen.
There's also new software to allow you to watch a movie together online and have a chat on the side.
See, I think we've got more ideas, guys, and I think next week I think maybe next week is like the software, the digital ways that we're staying connected in various goofy ways. Ivy, you're gonna see us out, girl.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you don't have Zoom, there's another free app. It's called House Party, and you can set that up with your friends and because my girlfriends, we're doing this too. We're going to have like a virtual cocktail hour, and it's free and look pretty easy to set up.
All right. Well, here's what I want you to do. Round up these digital ideas, and maybe that's our question next week. And I'm going to publish this podcast recording for the folks who couldn't make it and the folks who've had to dip in and out because they're working and trying to keep things going. You guys have my email address. If stuff pops into your mind, like, hey, I would love to hear about this, talk about that, let me know. And Kim, I know that LCFA is working to keep everyone informed.
Yeah, so if you guys have any other ideas on what we should be doing, let us know. We're here for you.
And I want to say a particular thank you to all the kitties who've made an appearance in today's call.
I know, I've noticed all the kitty cats. Lisa, I'm jealous.
Yeah, lots of kitties. All right. Thank you all. Be well.
Thank you. Be well, everyone. Be safe.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.